everyone, and thank you for joining us today from wherever you are in the world for this very exciting and important dialogue hosted by UNICEF and PwC. My name is Muriel Malgoni, and I work as a Youth Engagement Officer at UNICEF Africa Services Unit. And today, I'm lucky enough to be the facilitator for this important discussion. But before we kick off, allow me to provide some context for today's conversation. In brief, the world of work is changing. So as young people, we feel that our current education system is not preparing us with the skills that we need to get the jobs we want or start our own businesses. Earlier this year, in February of 2020, an online UNICEF poll of 40,000 young people in over 150 countries was conducted, where 1/3 of the respondents say that the skills and training programs that are offered to them do not match their career aspirations. Furthermore, the same numbers say that the jobs they seek aren't really available within their communities. Young people are very clearly saying that they need and want to develop digital and transferable skills, things such as leadership and innovation, to ensure that they can succeed in the workplace. This is particularly important in today's COVID-19 world, where these skills are more critical than before, as we see a generation of people working remotely and adapting to a changing environment. But importantly, it's good to note that it's not only young people that are recognizing these gaps and the challenges. A global PwC survey found that 74% of CEOs around the world are concerned about finding the right skills that they need to grow their businesses. If you add this to the very real socioeconomic issues that we're facing on the continent, we can say that we certainly have a challenge on our hands, one that I'm sure young people will rise to the occasion of beating. Now, in addition to being Women's Month in South Africa, the 12th of August is also International Youth Day. So it is very appropriate for us to be having this conversation to discuss the challenges that affect women and more broadly the youth in South Africa. We're lucky enough to be hearing from some of the young people who have participated in these skills development programs, as well as hearing from both PwC and UNICEF to understand why collaboration between such organizations are important. Now, joining me in today's conversation, we have from UNICEF, Ms. Muriel Mafico, who is the Deputy Representative of UNICEF South Africa. And from PwC, we have the CEO of PwC's Africa, Mr. Dion Shango. Thank you both for taking out time from busy schedules to be on this call today. And then we have our young participants, who I'm a little bit biased towards. From TechnoGirl, we have Raquel Nsimango, who is 25, who is an alumna of the program and is an engineer by profession and currently works as an investment banker focusing on mining, oil, and gas transactions. We then have Karabo Mamome, who is an 18-year-old matric student, another alumna of the program, who started her journey with TechnoGirls in 2017 in grade 9. And last but not least, at 21 years old, we have Sherwin September, who is a community engager at Naspers Labs, where he assists in matching young people with opportunities, among other important work for youth. A huge welcome to all of you. So let's start off with our first question. And in the spirit of International Youth Day, where we're seeking to engage young people for global action, I'm going to begin with our phenomenal youth delegates. So I think we'll start off with Raquel, and then we'll hear a response from Sherwin and Karabo. With this context that we've provided and this background about what's happening in the world, as young people in South Africa, tell us a little bit about your experiences and your observations on some of the challenges that are faced by young people in terms of education, employment, safety, or anything that you think is important as a young person. So I think we'll go Raquel and then Sherwin and Karabo.
Thank you, Miriam. It's a great pleasure for me to be part of this dialogue, which is very important, as you've outrightly pointed at the beginning. Just to address the question that you've posed, I think one of the biggest challenges that I have identified that we are facing as young people, particularly related to education, is the current academic curriculum design. So what I mean by this is, I think we are not adapting enough to include the advancements that are happening in technology, particularly related to coding, as we see some of the first world countries moving towards. And also, I think the inclusion of entrepreneurship as, not just an elective subject, but as a subject that should be taken by everyone, that as part of the schooling system, actually. So I think part of the issues that we're facing relates to unemployment, high unemployment rates. And part of the reason we're currently dealing with that is because I think, based on the current education system design, we aren't sort of equipped enough to learn how to start our own businesses as young people. So we look to the formal education and training route, which is not all that there is to being successful and contributing to the economy. So I think if I can just summarize, I think the education system could really benefit from adapting in terms of including skills that are very relevant for the future, such as coding, and also including entrepreneurship. And I think also, just if I may add, young people should also seek to develop relevant skills, such as those in STEM, which are really in high demand, not just in South Africa or in the African continent, but globally. So I think in deciding what sort of skills you need to equip yourself with, you also need to be aware of the broader context in which they will be applicable. And for me, STEM is, without a doubt, one of those skills which will never go out of fashion, if I can put it that way. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks, Raquel. I think you've summarized so much, and we're going to come back specifically to that point of skills a little bit later. Sherwin, what do you have to say? What do you think are some of the experiences and challenges that young people are facing?
So I'll second on what Raquel said. It's mainly because our curriculum is not up to standard, if I should put it in that way. Like what we need now is we need people to learn the necessary skills and actually gain skill sets for the fourth industrial revolution. Everything is changing, so we need to move with where the world of work is moving towards. So I think preparation at this time for the fourth industrial revolution, there's a lack in it. So I think that youth should get more access to the jobs that is coming, like developers, like web design, all of the skills that's needed. Like if someone can even do an online course, like online learning courses as set as how do I get this? It's on my tongue. I'm sorry about this. I think you're gonna learn a lot about it because I'm an analytical thinker, so it happens to me. My words are all over the place. So I think that online courses is informative and it actually helps students or even just youth that dropped out of school that maybe didn't find it at school. It helps them to actually find a path and venture into that way by actually doing it at home. So the fourth industrial revolution with the internet and all the way that the pace of learning nowadays, it's actually the way that I feel that the curriculum should move towards in that because it will assist and it will provide youth with the necessary skills to make it in the fourth industrial revolution and where we are moving towards.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Sho. And again, this is the fourth industrial revolution, skills coming up again. And we're going to throw this question back to you, Muriel and Dion, in a little bit. Karabo, what do you think are some of the main challenges young people are facing?
Thank you for that question. So, the first challenge that comes to mind in terms of education is that young people in rural areas still do not have access to education. And those that do have access, they face a lot of challenges like having to travel long distances, not affording the basic necessities for school like shoes, and the quality of education is not very good. And with that said, it denies them their very rights to education, the fact that they do not have access to education. The second issue that is big in terms of education is actually funding for students who have passed the matric and are looking to further their studies. And this is the reason why most less privileged youth do not get to further their studies. And to be brief, and lastly, I would just to talk about the education system as a whole. Like Albert Einstein said that you cannot judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree because it will live its life thinking that it is dumb. So we have only one system in this country, and which is used to nurture each and every children, and we are different children with different capabilities, different purposes, and different dreams. So we can use one education system. I think that we should just redefine education and have an education system that accommodates each and every one of us as different as we are.
Thank you, Karabo. I think that was also such a beautiful response because it shows that education is holistic. It's more than just the curriculum. And I think speaking on that curriculum, and as Raquel mentioned, STEM, I'm now going to throw this towards you, Muriel. In South Africa, we know that only 13% of graduates in STEM fields are women. But yet, and as rightly said by Raquel, these fields are crucially needed for innovation, especially in the fourth industrial revolution. Again, linking to comments made up by Sherwin. Muriel, what are your thoughts on how Naspers Labs specifically and TechnoGirls programs are helping young women to have a seat at the table when it comes to STEM innovation?
Thank you for facilitating this important discussion. Coming, as you rightly said, on Global Skills Day or World Skills Day. So the issue of involvement or participation in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics has been said many times. We have disparities. In the case of South Africa, for instance, only 23% of technical jobs are occupied by women. So that shows that we are missing out on a lot of potential, a lot of talent that could be contributing to the sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So the partnership with Naspers Labs, as well as with TechnoGirls, is trying to precisely bridge that gap. It's trying to create, first of all, a platform which allows young girls to participate along with boys to participate in sciences and technological subjects. It's also creating a safe space where people are given an opportunity. At times, that's what is important, to be afforded the opportunity. And then also to be helped to believe that this is possible. I can pursue a career in the sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So that's what Naspers Labs, along with TechnoGirls, are doing. They're creating a space which allows young people to use their full potential.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Muriel, for that response. I think you've spoken quite importantly about these programs. Now, Dion, to throw a question towards you is, as Muriel was speaking quite strongly about, we're talking about women, we're talking about gender. So Dion, we know that, we have a situation where there are very few women at the top when you're looking at South African JSE listed companies, specifically on an executive or a board level. So Dion, in your capacity within the business space, what do you think businesses can do to bring across, bring about greater gender equality?
Thanks, Miriam, and thank you once again for inviting me to this discussion. I'm delighted to be part of it and hope I can contribute in some way. This is a critical question that you raise about gender equality and representation within the corporate sector. As somebody who takes a great deal of pride from the fact that I was privileged and fortunate to be raised by incredibly strong women. This is something that is very close to my heart. And being in a position of leadership, I've learned how important it is for there to be the right tone at the top of any organization if one is ever to exponentially make the type of changes that we so badly need in terms of having adequate gender balance and representation at the top. What does that mean? It means that as a leader, you have to be incredibly deliberate and specific in how you design an overall organizational strategy that will have at the heart of it diversity and inclusion. It means from time to time as a leader, making decisions that feel somewhat intuitive in pursuit of this all-important goal that is so critical for our society to make those changes that we need to see. Muriel made the point about 23% of technical jobs being occupied by women. And it is not that difficult to see the mathematics that, it is not good for business to have such a low percentage. What does that mean practically? It means that many organizations and many leaders are practically leaving money on the table by not tapping into this talent that is out there that society can provide. So certainly diversity and inclusion has to be at the heart of your strategy as an organization, but you as a leader have to be at the forefront of that strategy and drive it relentlessly in order to create an environment in which everybody feels at home, in which young talent coming through can physically see female leaders within the organization who they can aspire to be like, who they can look up to, and who they can emulate in forming, views about their own future careers.
Great. No, thank you, Dion. That was, I think, as you spoke, that it's a social issue, it's a leadership issue, but even above that, it's a business decision, and I think that's something that's very important. There are so many facets to this. So now let's jump ahead to question 2. I think we've set a nice setting about the importance of skills in education. We've spoken about gender and its role, and now I want to swivel the conversation a little bit specifically around skills and employment. And again, Dion, I think we'll start with you just to segue quite nicely over there. Is when we speak about unemployment statistics in South Africa, we know that the unemployment rate has been rising for the past 12 years in the country. And part of it is due to a lack of required skills in terms of the populace. And so, again, when we talk about skills, I'd like to ask you, and linking quite nicely to what Raquel and Sherwin said as we begun, is what do you think are some of these future-focused skills that employers are looking for today, specifically when we're talking about this expansion of the fourth industrial revolution?
Miriam, this is such a critical issue, not only for us as an African continent, but it's actually a global issue. Why do I say that? Many of the world's continents and many of the world's Western nations have a significant problem of aging populations. And as Africa, we actually have the youngest or the most youthful population, a population that is expected to contribute significantly to productivity over the next 50 years. Right? But yet you have this contradiction and this tragic issue whereby leaders are saying that, yes, it's fantastic, the human capital is there, but unfortunately, the youth of Africa do not have the requisite skills that leaders are looking for today. And so what are those skills, as you say? Leaders and CEOs of large organizations talk about skills such as resilience, teamwork, creativity or innovation, skills around problem solving, and being able to apply the type of digital skills that are needed for a much more digital future. Now, many of those skills that I've just mentioned are extremely difficult to teach and can also not be easily automated to leverage technology and the fourth industrial revolution. And so how does a leader get around this problem? Well, unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. And really, the most effective way, in my opinion, is that organizations need to invest significantly in their own internship, training, and graduate programs to actually develop, build, and train people to actually have those skills themselves. This is a much more time-consuming way of ensuring that one has access to these skills. But in my opinion, this is non-negotiable. And there is no other way that can provide us with the lasting solutions that we need in order to be able to leverage this fantastic young population that we have as Africa in order for us to fulfill our potential as a region and as a continent.
True. Dion, you spoke about something quite interesting, and you hear this narrative of, is it, a demographic blessing or a demographic burden? Are we going to be a dividend or a disaster? So I think that's very important. And now, Muriel, to bring the question to you, I think Dion spoke quite nicely about these skills that are difficult to teach and to automate. We want digitally savvy young people. We want innovators. We want, people who are good at teamwork. How do you think that, implementing partners that UNICEF has, such as Naspers Labs and TechnoGirls, are able to assist in the development of these skills?
Thank you so much for that question. And Dion, thank you for highlighting the skills that are so critical in today's world of work. Now, when you look at the partners that both UNICEF and PricewaterhouseCoopers have selected to work with, you will see that they bring a combination of expertise, which is critical for preparing young people for the world of work. For instance, if we take Naspers Labs, Naspers Labs has extensive experience in adaptive online learning. They have physical locations, physical spaces where young people come, so they get to apply teamwork in real time, and it's really hands-on. They have to apply teamwork when they're in those labs where they'll be meeting their colleagues and co-creating and coming up with solutions. So the skills of teamwork, the skills of digital skills are already provided in the platforms that Naspers Labs is offering to young people. Then also when you look at Naspers Labs, they have a lot of experience in incubating youth-driven businesses. These might be micro businesses or small businesses. So again, it's a platform where young people get to apply the theory to the practical world of work. And these are critical because one of the problems that young people face is the lack of experience. So Naspers Labs provides young people with hands-on experience in a safe space where they're able to work in teams. And then looking at TechnoGirl program. TechnoGirl program, at the heart of it is the issue of exposing girls to sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It also has at its heart serving or reaching out to the girls from underprivileged areas. So all this is critical. It is critical in the context of the sustainable development goals that we bring those who are most behind. It's important that we leave no one behind. So the partners that we are working with are precisely helping us to bridge that gap and give opportunities to young women to participate in sciences and to also have digital skills, which are so critical in today's world.
Yes, yes. I mean, thank you so much, Muriel. And I think at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, and we're very fortunate to actually have our participants today. So I think let's speak to you, Sherwin, and then I think we'll go Karabo and Raquel. We've just heard wonderful, wonderful things about these programs, but you were actual participants here. So I'd like to ask you, Sherwin, do you feel that you have grown both as a person and within skills in your professional capacity? And if you could tell us a little bit about your journey and the outcome that has been being, a member of Naspers Labs.
Naspers Labs, you learn hard skills and soft skills. Like Dion and Muriel mentioned, soft skills isn't something that you can just give to someone and then they walk away with it. It needs to be practically practiced constantly over time, because with your resilience, perseverance, you need to be able to differentiate the difference between perseverance and resilience, because it's not the same. Also with innovation, creative thinking, critical thinking, if I might put that out there also. All of the soft skills comes together and also aligns that person's character. It also pushes that person to be better, to be more creative, working in a team, collaborating constantly. So that that person, when they venture into, let's just say, opening up their own business, they have the necessary skills to work with clients, to work with customers, even to be in the forefront and take a leadership role. That person with that soft skills, that person can do extremely good work. Speaking from personal experience only, I was quite introvertish before I came to Naspers Labs, because when you find yourself in different groups, certain times you do become a little bit inferior and you doubt yourself. When you let's just say, when you start to gain that soft skills, it becomes much easier for you, because you understand that everybody is different. It's having that self-awareness and also self-concept. So you understand your own needs and goals, and you understand the needs and goals of the people around you. So with all of that, when that comes into play, it literally gives that person a vision, or not even giving that person a vision, but it allows that person to see their own vision and continuously build it while they're there. So those skills are like, it's necessary today. It's like one of the most relevant and significant skills that we are going to need for the 21st, the fourth industrial revolution, because going forward without self-awareness, you might have all the skills in the world, like all the degrees, and you don't have self-awareness, it won't come into sync. So there will still be something missing. So Naspers Labs as an organization has provided us with soft skills that literally prepares us to go through the journey. And there's so much more that happens within the program. It's really amazing. It's really, really amazing. And the proof is in the pudding. It's in the pudding.
Thank you, Sharon, for sharing that. I think what's also so nice is you spoke about that internal change, and coming back to that leadership that Dion was speaking about, is it's a personal thing. So, our future is great in your hands. Raquel, let's jump to you. I know you describe yourself as an old alumni at the old age of 25. Your journey with TechnoGirls, tell us a little bit more about that.
I remember the day vividly. I was doing grade 10, it was 2009, and I had never been in a professional setting before. And so, you get selected, you go to this company, and you get there, and jeepers, no one really told you how to even communicate, with professionals. So I think the skills that you learn being part of these programs really, for me, extend far beyond the program itself. Today I get to speak and work as a confident investment banker, and I don't realize it, but part of what was happening is I was being prepared many years ago. So having been part of the program, for me, the one thing that really stands out is I was allocated a female engineering mentor. So you have this female engineer who is in a world of men, like in the most literal way, and you see how she carries herself so confidently. She voices her concerns, she makes sure she's heard. And as a young girl, you look at that, and she doesn't have to tell you, here's how you should do it, but just by looking at how she's doing it, that in itself provides such an important learning platform. And for me, that representation is what really matters. And I think, as Sherwin has rightly mentioned, a lot of the skills that you learn, for me, he's touched on all of them. You learn interpersonal skills. You get there, you can't just sit in your corner. You have to talk to people. It's engineering, you don't know it, but you still get to ask questions. And that's where I learned that irrespective of your experience, your age, you really get to contribute. And my contribution at the time wasn't really technical contribution, but the fact that I got to ask questions because I didn't understand, that was a contribution, because I was asking the most basic questions, but then it got them thinking, wow, if someone who's in grade 10 can understand it, maybe we can definitely simplify it. So I think the biggest takeaway for me was to learn that confidence and to not be shy. And I think it's really important who you get paired up with, because the people that I was fortunate, the people that were looking after me really were understanding my background, and they were rooting for me to, I don't know, they made me comfortable. So they were like, we know you don't know anything. You don't have to know anything. And that, I think that gave me enough confidence to say I can be myself and I can ask questions. And the other skills that I really learned was to be independent and to self-lead. As funny as it sounds, I'm a young child, grade 10. I go to this company. I have to take public transport. You really learn to lead yourself and be independent, because they give you a stipend and you have to know that it has to last you the whole week. It's really silly stuff when you look at it, but it really makes a difference to how I look at my self-discipline right now and how it started and the skills that were imparted in me without it being directly said. I could have decided to spend all the
Raquel,
money
just
and
for
not
time.
continue with the program. Yes, sure.
Your story makes me, of course.
Absolutely.
I think there's so much to learn about your story, everything from just like full
Definitely.
immersion to intergenerational dialogue. I also love how you said it wasn't only you learning from the older generation, but the inverse. And I think that's so important. And then, so I think we'll hear a little bit more about Karabo's experience as well.
Thank you for that question. So I can confidently stand before you and say that the person that I was back then in grade 9 when I entered the job sharing space, and the person that I left as, the two completely different person. And I say I have grown as an individual, and I've learned things that I myself believe that I wouldn't have learned if it wasn't for the experience. A key skill that I acquired through my participation in the program is the ability to communicate with different people from different backgrounds. I can say that I've always been a confident person, but being part of the program helped me to grow my confidence even more. And I learned vital skills that grew me as an individual, like time management and problem solving. I specifically mentioned these two because they are the ones that come in handy in my day-to-day life.
Great, thank you so much. So, I mean, again, now we've had this really fruitful conversation about, the importance of these skills and how to ensure that, we have everyone empowered. And that leads us quite nicely into our third question for today, which looks at specifically how do we transfer these skills? How do we, make sure we empower our youth population? So, Dion, we'll start with you within the framing of business. And here again, because money talks, we speak about businesses playing a key role in developing the skills of young people that you just mentioned in the question before. What can businesses do to show their commitment to this development of the skills of young people?
Yeah. The critical point here is that if businesses and organizations out there have the resources to share with society, with the public, they should do so. This is a societal issue, and no single entity or actor in society is ever going to be able to solve this problem by themselves. So collaboration definitely has to be the name of the game, and one needs to join hands with many other actors and players in society in order to be able to do that. So what can companies and businesses do at a practical? Well, as I mentioned earlier, they can offer internships, learnerships, and graduate programs. They can certainly partner with other organizations in the mold of a TechnoGirl, Naspers Labs, and others in order to be able to do that. And thirdly, they can ensure that their corporate social responsibility ethos or the lion's share of the spending of such a portfolio is aimed at making sure that the communities in which companies have operations and a footprint actually benefit from the investment made in the upskilling of those particular societies. So again, from a PwC perspective, that is why we have embarked on this journey called New World, New Skills. Following an internal decision we made to upskill all of our people and to prepare them for a much more digital tomorrow, we actually stood back and said, but hang on, surely it cannot be right that we do this for ourselves. What about those out there who get left behind on this digital journey? And so certainly it does have something to do with how a company fulfills its purpose. And we really saw this as a great way of bringing to life and delivering on our purpose of building trust in society and solving important problems. At a practical level, we've also taken the step to make available for free to the entire world this digital learning app that is called the Digital Fitness app. It is available to be downloaded either in the App Store or for Android devices as well, Google Play, as a way of helping those that need the skills to get onto that journey and start with their own digital development. So those are some of the practical things that people can consider doing, and some of what PwC has done in its own right.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dion. Again, it's also really inspiring to hear firm commitments and seeing these tangible programs being put into place. Muriel, then let's bring it to you again to ask, because, Dion has spoken quite generally from the space of business. And here to Muriel, we're giving you the platform to tell us how specific companies you think, how can companies get involved with the TechnoGirl program?
So we've already had the inspiring story from Raquel. And the truth of the matter is the TechnoGirl program is helping to transform the lives of girls in South Africa. Raquel's story is so similar to the stories of many other girls who have gone through this program. And they've all attested to the fact that it was a transformative journey. They have attested to the fact that having gone through this program, they were able to make career choices. And today they have a seat at the table because of the opportunity that they were given. They've also attested to the skills that they learned through that interaction and how they are what they are today because of, among other things, the experience that they went through having gone to the TechnoGirl program. Now, the issue is we have heard from Raquel, we've heard the stories of maybe thousands of other girls in South Africa, but there are many more. There are many more girls who are aspiring to pursue a career in the sciences, in technology, mathematics, engineering. So how do we then create that opportunity for those girls who really want to be involved in STEM? And that's where companies can play a role. As Dion mentioned, they can participate in the mentorship program, they can participate in the job shadowing program. And this really is an open invitation to say, join TechnoGirl program, support them, be a part of that program. Because you, by participating in that program, the companies will be affording girls an opportunity to pursue a career of their choice. And we also know that by partnering with TechnoGirls, we will be contributing to building the much needed pool of young women who can contribute to the development of South Africa. So that's the role that companies can play. They can create those platforms, they can give girls an opportunity.
Yes, that's so true. Thank you, Muriel. And again, the importance of women and young girls and the empowerment of that population cannot be overstated in this conversation. But now I want to, bring it back, and we're going to hear a little bit more from Karabo as well, one of our other techno girls, about her experiences and show you that, again, the proof truly is in the pudding. But to Raquel, Sherwin, and Karabo, I think we have to be very cognizant of the fact that not all young people have had this chance to attend a skills development program or an internship or a learnership where they gain skills. I mean, we can all agree that we're very fortunate in this situation. And so I think my question to you as young people who have gone through these programs is, what are some of the ways that you think young people can develop these skills that you so rightly said are needed in today's society without the opportunity of going into a formal program? So I think we'll start with Sherwin and then we'll go to Raquel.
Volunteering is one of the easiest ways to get access to the skills. So take it that someone would like to become a business developer. You don't necessarily need to go and do everything on the ground physically, but you can be in contact with someone that you know, or just engage with different types of fields of work and literally just get yourself collaborating in that particular area and volunteering. Because with volunteering, you gain a great skill set that you can also take back to doing online courses to feed into that. So you can use the information that you get theoretically, the theoretical information that you get on the online course, and you can use that information and all of that stuff to practice it in the volunteering sector. From volunteering, there might be different organizations, companies that you will meet while doing volunteering, and that way you always have that communication with different people, and you know where to navigate when you need to learn or practice a different skill. So let's just say, for argument's sake, I would like to do presenting. So I'll go to the first thing I'll do is I'll go to one of the art organizations to help me to speak a little bit better. Thereafter, I'll just try to connect myself maybe to a newspaper or someone that does journaling. There's a lot of online courses that are free on Ellison and Udemy that does copywriting. So I'll go and study a little bit of that and then use all of that to find myself into a place to literally do a learnership and feed into the potential career path that I would like to go into. But that's only one example. There's many more. So on my side, I'll primarily say volunteering is the foundation of everything, and it's fundamental.
Great. Thanks, Sho. And I think what was so nice there is you spoke about the young people taking ownership, or as I think Raquel said earlier, self-leadership, where you take control of the situation. So I think I'm actually going to jump to Karabo first, and we'll end off with Raquel on this question. Karabo, the question here is, you were fortunate enough to have gone through the TechnoGirls program, but not all young people are able to go through some form of formal programming. So the question to you, Karabo, is how do you think young people can develop these necessary skills without the setup of a formal program?
So the first thing I'll say is, like, if you're not part of a formal program, I think it's up to you to stand up for yourself and find ways in which that you can engage and learn new skills. And I had that Sharon spoke about volunteering, which I totally agree that it is one way of developing new skills and having getting new experiences. And these are the things that you can do simply by going to local businesses or local NGOs. And I myself can say that I benefited from volunteering, because even there I got a chance to put the skills that I learned from job shadowing into practice. So it is a good way to develop new skills. And another way I can say it's learning through your phone. Like, at this day and age, everything is like computerized. So you can look for like programs on the phone, ask questions to people, and get to develop new skills and have new experiences.
Exactly. Thank you, Karabo, also for bringing up that there's so much knowledge in the palm of our hands that we don't usually take note of, and that's a very good point. Thank you so much, Karabo. I think let's jump to Raquel. So Raquel, leading on from this self-leadership, how do you think young people can develop these new skills?
I think just before I'll share something very briefly, but I think I really have to agree with what Sharon has shared with regards to volunteering and part-time jobs. I can tell you now, I've done so many roles which you might not even believe it, anything from retail to being a librarian assistant, everything. And no experience is ever a waste. So all those experiences really shape who you end up becoming. And just for me, just to answer your question in terms of what young people could do who are not fortunate enough to be part of these programs, I'll tell you a story about myself very briefly. So I was saying, even though I was fortunate enough to be a part of these programs, I continued seeking other opportunities because I just really think the world is our oyster as young people. So I'll tell you what I've done. I started a Saturday school program in partnership with the Department of Education. And for me, that Saturday school that I started was a response to an issue that was raised by Karabo earlier, to say, you have kids from rural areas, kids from underprivileged areas who are not getting, say, good quality education. And really what I was trying to do with that initiative was to say, when I got to varsity, I could see the difference very clearly between rural kids that went to rural schools, kids that went to township schools, and kids that went to Model C schools. And I was really trying to bridge the gap. And what I really like about these programs is that they empower you beyond the program itself. So I had the opportunity that somebody invested in me, and I really wanted to pay it forward. And that's what I did with the Saturday school. So the point of it is it extends beyond the programs that are there. You need to just find a problem in your community that exists, that you care about, and that you think there's something you can do to help solve. And that's literally what I've done. And I've continued to do that. And it just brings me so much fulfillment to know that even without the backing of big corporates, there is something that I can do that is within my capacity. And I continue to do that.
I think, Raquel, your story brings me fulfillment. I think listening to that, it speaks about the importance of youth empowering youth, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a situation, as you said, with big corporate backing you, but that if you take on the initiative, you can create that empowerment. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think you both gave really good examples about how young people can take the lead in these situations to ensure the skills are being shared in communities. I think now I want to move on to our fourth question. And I think we've been speaking about a lot of, in theory and hypothetically, this is what we think would be done. And now we want to get down to this tangible example. So I'll start with you, Muriel. Very excitingly, I know, would you be able to tell us about some of the UNICEF and PwC collaboration that is happening? So I know, Dion spoke earlier about, bringing the two worlds together, and we're seeing this happening now. So, what are the programs and what is it set out to achieve in South Africa?
So thank you so much, Mariam. I think from the discussion we've had so far, you can see why the partnership, the collaboration is so critical for us to address the complex issues that we are confronted with. I think from the beginning, colleagues mentioned that we are really dealing with very complex issues, and no single entity, I think Dion mentioned this, no single entity has the solutions. So the collaboration between PricewaterhouseCoopers and UNICEF is really informed by the need for us to come together, bring our assets, bring our expertise, bring our global network in order to address the issue of building knowledge, building skills among young people. So it's a very ambitious partnership where we are actually looking at upskilling millions of young people globally. And here in South Africa, we are going to be focusing, as we mentioned earlier, on partnering with Naspers Labs. We will partner with TechnoGirls as well as the University of Pretoria. And the objective behind this is for us to contribute to reducing unemployment among youth in South Africa. The figures are staggering. We were talking about over 60% of youth who were unemployed before COVID. So we can only imagine what the situation is like today. So the collaboration between UNICEF and PricewaterhouseCoopers could not have come at a better time. It is coming at a time when we desperately need to ensure that we address this critical national problem. But it also means we need to broaden our partnerships. And that's what we will be doing, working with different partners in order to scale up what we are doing, the opportunities that we are offering to young people.
Yes. Thank you for that, Muriel. I think off the cuff we'll say we love ambitious plans. So the more ambitious, the better. Dion, as the other partner within this collaboration, the second actor, from PwC's perspective, what is it that you hope to achieve through this collaboration that Muriel has just mentioned?
Before I answer that directly, Miriam, many people may not know this, but when our global network of PwC started this conversation with the UNICEF, and they had to choose a location or territory in the world where the partnership and collaboration could be brought to life. They identified Africa. That is where they saw the greatest need, and that is where they felt the partnership and collaboration had the greatest potential to actually make a meaningful difference. And so for PwC, I'm really hoping that we can get an opportunity to fulfill our purpose, as I said earlier, to bring to life our values as an organization. We have 5 values that drive the way in which we conduct ourselves and interact with other stakeholders on a daily basis. One of those 5 values is making a difference. And so I'm really hoping that through New World, New Skills, and through the collaboration with UNICEF, this will probably be our best opportunity to showcase what we mean by making a difference in all of those countries and societies where we have a presence, where we want to change real lives on the ground of people of this continent and of the country of South Africa. If we can achieve that, I would not be more prouder as the leader of our firm here on the African continent.
Thank you, Dion. I think that making a difference is so inspiring to hear. That it's about the people and the selection of the African continent. Coming back to that demographic dividend, I think you've placed your cards correctly. The potential on this continent is something that truly is a blessing. I'm very excited to see where that goes. But now we've heard about this collaboration. Let's get some reflections from, the actual young people who are going to be benefiting from this collaboration. So I'll start with Karabo. Having heard about, the hopes and aspirations and this very ambitious plan, as Muriel put it, and this collaboration that we have between UNICEF and PwC. What does it mean to you, knowing that this is in the works, particularly as you have experienced these initiatives firsthand, being TechnoGirls and Naspers Labs? So I see Karaba's dropped off. So Sherwin, maybe we'll start with you and then we'll jump to Raquel.
So what it means to me is like, this is literally, I'm going to be clear, like, this is amazing. Like just from my side, it's really amazing because with COVID, like, the regular going to school is not the same anymore. Like I have a sister that can't go to school. So she's going to have to repeat the grade next year because of COVID, the COVID-19 that's in Veritas. So just seeing where the world of work is going to, even her repeating that year, that won't add anything. You understand? It's not going to give her the soft skills, the hard skills that she needs to actually go into the career that she would potentially want to be in. So I think that this partnership is going to allow and navigate youth into the career paths that they always wanted to be in. And it's also going to give youth access to the resources that's going to benefit them at the end of the day. So from my side, this is literally going to be one of the most amazing partnerships that I've ever came across. Because like literally, guys, you don't understand how excited I am for this. You don't understand because we've been waiting for this for a very, very, very long time. And I mean, I think the deadline is here and we're here. So we need to rise to the occasion and just grasp the opportunity that's there. So that's it from my side.
Thank you, Sharon, for that excitement. Muriel and Dion, no pressure, but with that excitement, you can't let Sharon millions of young people down. So we're very excited for this collaboration. Raquel, what are some of your reflections on this collaboration?
Wow. So I absolutely echo Sherwin's sentiments. I'm absolutely excited about what this means for young people. For me, particularly for women, right? And it just coincides it with being Women's Month currently in August. But I know, science even proves that when women inclusion into the economy increases by 10%, the gross national product of that country goes up by at least 2%. I mean, and this is just, to show what programs like this could really benefit and the economy. So I'm really excited about what it means for the young people that stand to benefit from these opportunities like I have. But I'm also excited about the impact that it will have on the broader economy. And I mean, coming out of COVID, when you do come out of it, I think this will be a much needed initiative. And I think, very well done to all the parties involved in securing this partnership. It's brilliant. I have no words for it. I'm just so excited. And as I always say to the UNICEF and TechnoGirl partners, and if there's anything that I can ever do to lend a helping hand, I'm always there. And that's because I understand the value that these initiatives really do add in the lives of people like myself and so many others. So yes, please, many more, just go on to that stuff. And we're here to really support these initiatives. I'm very excited about it.
Thank you, Raquel. I think that's a promise. Muriel and Dion, you can hold Raquel too. I think when you speak about the collaboration, it's bigger than just UNICEF and PwC. But as Raquel said, it's everyone. It's all the young people coming together, especially whenever the after COVID period will be. We're all waiting for that day. And I think, that brings us quite nicely to the end of our discussion. And so as we wrap up, and as everyone has mentioned, the implications of COVID-19 is something that we can't ignore. I mean, UNICEF speaks about, the world reimagined. What is the world going to look like post-COVID? And we know that there's going to be really, really difficult and, long-bearing implications, both economically and socially. So Muriel, let's start with you for, I guess, your closing thoughts on this. And what do you think are some of the implications that the pandemic is going to have for our society and for the development sector? And then I'll sprinkle in, I know we're short on time, but also I don't want to leave us on quite a, dreary note of doom and gloom. So what are the implications and do you think we're going to overcome them?
I think without a doubt, COVID has disrupted life as we know it. It's so obvious, we feel it, we see it every day. And what is also important to note is that before COVID, we were already grappling with a lot of issues. So in the case of South Africa, we were dealing with the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. And we know that in the context of COVID-19, these COVID-19 has further exposed vulnerabilities and also deepened inequalities. So the key then is, how do we, within this crisis, while we are dealing with this crisis, how do we do the right thing? How do we begin to turn this crisis into an opportunity to fast track and accelerate the changes that are so necessary? We need to bridge the digital divide. We cannot continue with a situation where only the privileged few can access digital assets. This is the time that we need to invest in bridging the digital divide. We need to bridge the gender divide. We have seen the impact of COVID on everybody, but we've also seen the gender impact and how women and girls are bearing the brunt of COVID. So this is our chance. This is our opportunity to turn this crisis into something that brings a more inclusive, a fairer, and more just society. I would like to suggest 3 things that we need to do quickly. One, the biggest opportunity we have is the young people themselves. There are millions of young people in South Africa. They are ready, and they've said this, they are ready to play their part. Let us harness the power that our young people bring, the creative power that our young people bring. The second issue is partnerships, collaboration. The complexity of the issues we are dealing with cannot be solved by a few. We need to collaborate. We need to partner. And that is why the collaboration between PricewaterhouseCoopers and UNICEF is so critical, and it is so, so timely. And then lastly, we need to make sure that COVID-19 does not undo and reverse the gains that we had made. This is the opportunity we have to build back better and build a more resilient society, more resilient economy. So the opportunities are there, and let's focus on the opportunities.
Thank you. Thanks, Muriel. I like how you framed it around the positive and the opportunities. And thank you for leaving us with those 3 tangible points. Dion, then the question to you against the backdrop of COVID is, if I could ask you, what would your message be to business leaders who feel like skills development for young people and women is something that they can't really afford to focus on right now? As we said, there's all the problems with COVID, you're losing money. Why is investment in young people and women important?
Yeah. Holding such a view, Miriam, is simply a luxury that no business leader has anymore. To be so backward in your view, those days are gone from a business perspective. And there's an old saying that goes, "Never waste a good crisis." And I think this COVID-19 pandemic is again reminding me of that particular saying. I agree wholeheartedly with what Muriel has said about how COVID-19 has actually accelerated what needs to be done from a digital upskilling perspective. And I'd like to take it even further to say that the fantastic opportunity that this pandemic has provided us is that it's actually leveling the playing field, in that most parts of the world are required to compete in a very similar way. Working from home and staying home has now all of a sudden gotten a whole new meaning. And so what does that mean for the youth of today? It means that if you are fortunate enough to have access to a device, access to some connectivity, data, and the like, certainly you can do things that matter. You can do things that bring about economic value. And that puts you in exactly the same position as another youth based in a completely different part of the world is also able to do. So it is for us as business to make sure that we provide the platforms, the access to such digital assets, devices, and equipment, and make sure that we set our youth on that path of digital upskilling that is so badly needed.
Thank you. Thank you again, Dion. Again, it's that positivity, that ensuring that we are going to come out of this stronger. I really like that quote that you used. And then finally, to end off on a very high note, and again, not because I'm biased, but to leave the best for last with our youth participants, we'll start with Raquel and then go to Sherwin, and hopefully then we'll have some input from Karabo. Raquel, what would you like to say to young people who are or who have or who may be losing hope in finding employment and trading opportunities during the current economic situation, and especially now added on with COVID? What do you have to say to those young people?
So, Mariam, I read a book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and there he says, even in the worst of times, in the most terrible circumstances, you still have the freedom to choose how you see your circumstances and creating meaning out of them. You know, and I absolutely love what Muriel and Dion have said with regards to having a positive stance, and that's what really this is. It's saying we are not in the most ideal of situations, but we still have the freedom to choose how we do see those circumstances and what meaning we create out of them. So I'd like to say to the young people out there, in whatever space you're in, ask questions, ask yourself, how am I contributing? Seek clarity, provide new insights. There are so many ways for us young people to contribute. So let us continue challenging the status quo and aim to be the best versions of ourselves in all that we do. And I think also there's a quote that I really like. It says that it's not who you are that holds you back, it's who you think you're not. And I think just really lastly to the sponsors, PwC, UNICEF, and really all the partners that are committed to making this work is you've afforded me a seat in the table. You really have. And the table is still so much bigger. There's so many more seats available. Let us continue doing that for the many young people, especially young girls that are out there. So I have full confidence in you that you'll carry this mission forward. And as I've said, I will echo it again. I'm here to help, all hands on deck. So whatever you need, let's all make this happen. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Raquel. That's on record. We're coming for you for that support. Love it. I think I really like this term of the seat at the table. And I remember reading once somewhere someone said to me is, if there's not enough seats at the table, young people will bring their own seats. We'll bring a folding chair and we'll sit at that table. So I think that it echoes what you're saying is that, don't lose hope. You can do it and you can get there. Karawi, you can go ahead.
So it is evident that in this current economic situation that it is very difficult to find employment or training opportunities. So I would say find ways to empower yourself if you can't find the formal employment. Like be a creative, like be innovative, try entrepreneurship and look for other ways to gain skills as we've talked about earlier. So if what you want to pursue now is not working, like get involved in other things, look for other ventures, and like basically what I'm saying is do everything in your power to move, because we all know that fortune favors the brave. So it won't help you to sit down and feel sorry for yourself.
Sherwin, we'll end off with you. What are your pearls of wisdom for young people who may be losing hope during this time?
I think Raquel said everything, but let me just try my best. So what I would tell someone is that never ever allow your current circumstances to hold you back. That's only barriers, and whatever challenges you go through, it makes you stronger depending on how you look at it. So there can be negative energy around you, there can be positive energy around you. Also choose your company, choose who you surround yourself with, because who you surround yourself with adds value and adds a lot to who you are, because your character is made up from influence. Influence does a lot. So always surround yourself around positive people and continue pushing towards in who you see yourself to be. Not who someone else sees you to be, but who you see yourself to be. So that's my words of wisdom. It's only just continue. Don't avoid challenges, don't avoid trials, but push through it so that you can become that person that you want to be. Remember the path that you are headed to, that develops who you're supposed to be. Like, I spoke to one person, I'm gonna end it off here. I spoke to one person and I asked him, like, what do you want to be one day? He said, look, I want to be an entrepreneur, Sherwin. I asked him, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? He said, because I can buy myself a car and buy myself a house. And then I told him, look, the process is going to change your thinking, because the process is going to add to who you are supposed to be and who you become to be that entrepreneur. There's certain challenges that you're going to go through that's going to mold the person that you will come out to be on the end. So that's me. That's it from me, guys. Just continue pushing, and yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharon. We love inspiration. We love those positive vibes everywhere. And I think that draws us to an end of the questions from my side. If Muriel and Dion, if you're comfortable, I think I've been doing a lot of talking. I've been putting questions at you left, right, and center. I think it would be quite nice if we could give Raquel and Sherwood an opportunity to pose a question back to you. I mean, these are the young people you're engaging with and collaborating with, and I think this is a nice opportunity to have that space. So, I mean, in the interest of time, Raquel and Sherwin, if you could each ask one question to both Dion and Muriel, and then we'll have some quick responses to that, and then I think we'll close off for the day. So I don't know who wants to start first. Raquel?
Honored to be sitting next to both you, Muriel, and Dion. It's really an honor. And I just really like to ask, from a young person's perspective, in light of this COVID pandemic that's happening, how do you think we as young people can take advantage of this situation? Because as you've said, Dion, earlier, that we should not shy away from a crisis. I'm not quoting you, but you know that's not it, right? So to say, let's every crisis presents an opportunity. So what opportunities do you think this has presented for mostly us young people, and what can we take out of it?
Okay, I think Sherwin, do you want to ask your question as well? Then we can group them both. And then we do have a question from Karabo that I'll also bring in. So the first question is around opportunities. Sherwin, your question?
So my question is like, what is the action steps, like the action steps to implementation? So how does that contextually look? What does that look like going forward?
Okay, so we have a question around opportunities, and then Sherwin asking about those tangible steps. And then finally from Karabo, I think her question was around what advice can you give to young people who are striving for success? So very similar to what we had asked our participants, but you know, they've lost hope. What do we do about that? So 3 questions your way, if you can try and summarize a succinct response to that. Maybe give you a few seconds to think about it, but if you're ready, you can go ahead.
Maybe I can start with the opportunity one. Raquel, I think without sounding like a cliche, it's true that we should never waste a crisis. And we should look at this as a moment when we are all in self-isolation, aren't we? We are really keeping our distance. But how do we invest in ourselves during that quiet time? It's almost like me time. It's your time. Look at how can you invest in yourself. Is there something new that you can learn? It doesn't have to be a technical skill. It can be something that you've wanted to do for a long time. But the important thing is to stay positive, stay grounded, invest your time, make it worthwhile. When we all look back to 2020, we should be able to say, yes, 2020 was tough, but this is what I was able to do. So let's use this time in the most productive way possible. But also what it has brought is the recognition and the importance of the human factor. I think wherever we are connecting digitally, but we miss that human factor. And I'm hoping that as young people, you will also, have this opportunity to really, really look at the importance of human relations. Even for mature people, the importance of the human factor has become so critical. We cannot visit our families, we cannot visit our friends. So at the end of it all, when we've acquired all the skills, all the resources, all the assets, the human relations are at the center of everything that we do. And I think COVID has amplified that. And it has also helped to bring the humanity in us. And we see it in the generosity where people are willing to give of their time because they recognize we are all connected. We are all part of one humanity. And we share the same vulnerabilities. And therefore, we need each other.
So I don't want to repeat all of what Muriel has said, and I think she's been quite eloquent in answering that question. So Raquel, from my perspective, and I tried to allude to this earlier, this pandemic is a 1 in 100 year event. right? There are some people who have lived and died and never got to experience what we are going through in 2020. Yeah, it has turned life on its head. It has caused us to ask fundamental questions about the institutions that determine how society functions and the systems and processes that underpin that functioning of our society. So putting all of that in the pot, I see this as probably the opportunity of a lifetime for the youth to make their voice heard in ways that have never happened before. And I think, you probably saw some aspect coming through of this in, social justice movements such as Black Lives Matter, where something we've had as an issue for decades or centuries, all of a sudden was heard slightly differently. And I think that for me was just a practical example of how the world is all of a sudden thinking differently in 2020. And it's about how we grab that and use that as an opportunity to make some real and needed changes going forward. So you spoke about a seat at the table. Boy, oh boy, do you deserve that seat. So make sure that voice is heard, right? And make sure that you challenge and question everything. You spoke about challenging the status quo. That is exactly what you should be doing. So please continue doing that. You know why that is, Raquel? Because none of us have the answers. And people like Muriel and I of our generation, well, we are just warming these seats that we happen to be occupying today, and preparing them for you to come and take tomorrow, because that is when the future is, right? The future is tomorrow. It's not 2 or 3 or 5 years from now. And so make sure that you are part of that process and get involved. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Dion and Muriel. I think the two questions were quite nicely interlinked. We're speaking about opportunities and we're speaking about tangible, implementable steps, which I think you've both responded to, and then looping in Karabo's thoughts about hope and inspiration. So I think we're going to close off. I mean, it's been quite an interesting conversation. There's a lot that's been learned. I think one thing that has implicitly happened, behind the scenes with all the technical difficulties is that it's very clear that lots of young people in South Africa still do not have, secure, reliable access to internet connectivity. And I mean, unfortunately, we've lost Karabo in and out of specific moments of this call. And so, I mean, in the interest of again, youth empowerment and bringing everyone a seat at our new virtual table, I think I'm going to end off by saying thank you from my side. But I actually want to give Karabo the final say in this conversation, to give us her closing thoughts. She's been listening in on some parts of the conversation. We've been chatting. So Karabo, here's your seat at the table. Tell us what are some of your closing thoughts, your final discussion points you would like to leave the group with. So we've lost Karabo, but on her behalf, I can see she sent me a message now where she was like, can I please say that I am so grateful for the opportunity we have been awarded. I remember when I first engaged with Karabo, she described herself as an ambivert, and I think it was very similar to what Sharon was saying, is that these opportunities allow young people to become and fit into themselves. So on behalf of Karabo, she says, thank you for the opportunity, and that she's very grateful. And so on behalf of myself, on behalf of UNICEF, Naspers Labs, PwC, and TechnoGirls, I think we also want to say thank you so much for taking aside the time for this conversation. Thank you for sharing your experiences so honestly and in such an open space. Thank you for your promises, Dion and Muriel. We will hold you to that. And thank you for the promises of collaboration and for allowing young people to be empowered. As we've said so many times before, young people truly are a blessing. I think we are going to reach that demographic dividend. Women are a blessing. Women are so powerful. So, looking at Women's Month, looking at International Youth Day, I hope this leaves you all inspired and encouraged. I know it definitely has left me so. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.